right. Let me just make sure we're recording.
I just want to make sure my phone's powered off. Sleepy mode, because it gets distracted. My radio's off. There we go.
I put my favorite jacket on for this.
Your favorite jacket? Yeah. Come on now.
$10 in Thailand at the shopping mall.
Well, it's because where you bought it makes it your favorite, not necessarily,
Yep.
All right, we're good.
All right. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the very first Canyon Springs High School Library Media Center podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Rico, along with Eason Drayton, and on the board today is, well, they're not here. This podcast discusses what's going on at the Library Media Center, books, and much more. Today is our guest, Principal Markouzis. Let's get right into it. Welcome, Mr. Markouzis.
Well, glad to be here, Doc. Appreciate being here, taking this opportunity. I know it's taken a few weeks to get it scheduled, but look, now we're on the schedule, and now we could just keep making this, whether it be a monthly, bi-monthly thing at least, or unless you don't want to bore your listeners with the principal always being on. You can have others.
No, we already have a segment called the Principal Corner.
I love it. Principal Corner. I love it.
Good name.
Yeah.
Well, first off, we'd like to recognize those victims and their loved ones of the UNLV tragedy this past week. It hit kind of close to home for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, having one of my degrees from UNLV and having so many loved ones and not only former alumni, but, people that I've known that I've worked with over the years that are also part of adjunct faculty. My heart always goes out when anything like this senseless crime happens, but certainly to those that are impacted, especially. It's never a good time, no matter when it happens, but when we're talking about so close to the holiday season and with the semester being over and already the stresses that so many people face already in just like day-to-day life, it's for that to happen is unfortunate, and my heart does go out to all the victims, but so many also that I think that we kind of need to recognize is that so many of the staff members and faculty members and students that were proximal nearby, just we have to recognize the PTSD that's associated with that too. There are going to be students and faculty that were ever so proximal that witnessed that event that are not okay. It's going to take them weeks, maybe months, maybe years to recover back to what we would like to define as normal status. So again, like my thoughts and prayers do go out to all those victims and also the residual victims and effects that has as it kind of casts out from there. But no, thanks for bringing that up and starting with that because it's unfortunate. It really is.
Absolutely.
As a student point of view, it was quite shocking as well because I think you set out the announcement around 2:30.
Mm-hmm.
2:20, I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was quite a shock because I was just sitting in class. I didn't think anything was going on. I heard you come on the intercom, and I never heard you so shocked, frankly. And then I got the news. It was pretty sad.
Yeah, it's tough because, in these positions, one of the things that keeps me up at night is the safety and security of this building and the safety of others. Because I have to realize as a principal and in this position, the first and foremost thing that I always worry about is the safety of this campus. And I know sometimes, like, the grown-ups on the campus, we can maybe be a little over the top with the ID badges or being to class on time or making sure, kids don't play or mess around. Like, we're strict on some of those things because those have a rippling effect. And a lot of times, the students outnumber the staff. So those have rippling effects. Like it's hard for 2-3 adults to deal with a couple dozens of students that may or may not be involved in something. So we're always hyper vigilant. Like, even in this campus, right? Like we do a lot of things going through certain doors. But if someone really wanted to get in this place and cause harm, or any place for that matter, library, hospital, UNLV, I mean, any of these places, a sporting event, if someone really wanted to cause harm, that's the sad reality we have to face. Like, you can cause harm if you want to. So that stuff keeps me up at night. I talk about it often with not only our campus monitors, but our school police officers. We're really grateful to have. But it's a tough job keeping the place safe, keeping any place safe. I mean, and the last thing I think we want to do is turn schools into like the airport. We don't want to have people be searched like TSA. So it's that delicate balance of making it a welcoming environment, welcoming place, and secure. And it takes all of us. It's not just my responsibility. That's kind of where I start to have some solace about some of this. And it still keeps me anxious, but it's all of our responsibilities. It's the new freshman to Canyon, to the night custodian, to the teacher, to the principal. We all have a responsibility to keep our community safe. And the days of don't say nothing or whatever, keep it quiet, or we got to really, really as a society reflect and think about that. Because if we're going to keep this country, this city, this town, this country safer, the more people that stand up and say enough's enough, we got to keep everything safe. Like, I understand we can disagree. I understand people can fight, push and shove. That's not what we're talking about. That to me is minor. I'm talking about the gun violence. That's the stuff that we've got to, when it comes to major violence where someone's life, no one should ever die before their time. You should die of natural causes. Should die of something from an older age of somehow. Should not die due to some violent act that could be preventable or controlled. That's just my position. I'm sorry. We're getting off on a tangent, but I feel real passionate about this stuff.
Very important topic that we need to have discourse about.
I agree. Yeah. I think more sensible discourse, not political rhetoric, but more sensible, mindful discourse needs to happen about this topic. It's an emotional topic, I get it, but we need to put our differences aside, political, because a lot of times this goes down political. This becomes a political thing. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor, black or white, Hispanic, it doesn't matter. Every family member wants the same for their family and their children. They want to be able to raise their children, send their kids to school in a safe environment. They want their kids to go to school and come home safely with little to no injury. And that whether you're going to kindergarten, preschool, to college, that's what everybody wants for their family and their children and their loved ones. So we need to kind of put the politics aside and not make it about this, this amendment, that amendment, this person possesses that or whatever. And we got to, as a society, start to address and deal with the real root causes of some of this. And there's not one factor. It's multi-pronged. Multi-factors play into this. And we can't be dismissive anymore, I think. And again, I'm sorry. I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but I think it's too important because the young people, right, like our kids, right? I know, Doc, you've got kids. I got a son, right? You're a young person. My son's probably, what are you, 16, 15?
I'm 16.
16, my son's 15. I want to know when my son is my age, is our society, are we better today as a society when he's 50 years old? Is society better when he's at 50 than when I was at 50, right? And I think these are some things that we want. Every generation should strive to make the society a much better version of ourselves. And with social media and everything else that we have access to, we can use that for good, right? Use those tools of communication for good to be able to prevent, and no one should ever take anyone's life unless it is an absolute imminent last chance necessary incident. And I say that about every entity. Like I don't even want law enforcement. We want to use every other tool necessary before we take the life of someone else, right? So I think we should start as a civilized society. That's what we want to be able to get to. We want to get to the point where no one's life should be taken on the hands of others unless there's some imminent threat, and only the last chance scenario that we even consider that. We should all live life. I know it sounds esoteric, but long life and live long and prosperous, so to speak, right?
Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly, right? Captain Spock, right? We can all learn by that. We should, if we pass away, we pass away because of old age and because of some because of old age, really, to be quite honest with you. You should all live a fruitful life, and maximize it to the fullest, so to speak. So, sorry, man, I got off on a crazy tangent. I'm ruining your podcast right now.
No. This is a topical podcast, and this needs to be addressed. We're just off the heels, 5 days away from this tragedy.
Yeah, I would agree.
I believe in my opinion, a big cause of the violence is mostly mental health.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I believe it's mostly just the enforcement of social media being right. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people, you can see if you go on Instagram or Twitter or whatever you use, you can always go to the comments, and you know those videos that make you smile, and then you go to the comments and smile fades away.
Of course.
It's also, I feel like the importance of politics is kind of fell down on people's minds. You know what I'm saying? I feel like nowadays people use politics as a weapon more than what it's actually meant to be, which is bettering this country.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. And I don't know, really, when it comes to the violence. I'm just 16. I'm trying to get my grades right. I'm not trying to have to worry about potential shoot or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't heard of any cases like this back in the day. But nowadays it seems to be running rampant.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, because it's, I think, part of the reason why there's a perception of it running rampant. Because of our access to 24-hour news, however it comes our way. Little text, vignettes, snippets on social media, to obviously multiple broadcasts that just rinse, repeat the same narrative over and over again. And I think we all get news differently. We get it like a la carte based off how we feel. Like if you are more of a conservative thinking individual, you might lean more to conservative outlets for receiving your news. If you're more liberal, right, you might lean more liberal outlets. And the same thing, even the way social media, works. Like if you like certain videos, if you're into fitness, your streaming is all fitness. If you're into gaming, it's all gaming. But then also the news is also manipulated based off those algorithms. So we receive the kind of news we want, as all of us know this, right? Like we receive the news we want, and sometimes we get skewed narratives of the news. And politicians currently, right? Politicians want to get elected, and then they care about the people next, right? But they're beholden. They want to get elected. They care about their constituents. Most, not all, most politicians are beholden to the large corporatist constituents that donate a lot of money, right? So in order to be elected today in the political sphere, you have to have millions and millions and millions of dollars. And sometimes those special interest groups will donate to a candidate based off what they want to pass. And sometimes most of the time, I want to be mindful to know that in most cases it's noble. We want to make the society better, right? Whether it be improve medical systems, improve roads, structures, infrastructure. We want to make sure that we have commerce between countries that economically benefit all. But also at the end of the day, the political structure has become where you have to be rich. You have to, or have lots of money to even be in power. Usually, rarely do you see, when we do, we celebrate that individual where it's like someone that came from nothing, grassroots, knocked on doors, handed out flyers or shook hands and they got elected. Like those are fewer and far between now, where I think our original political structure was designed to be of the people, for the people. Now it's for the people for the people, but those multi-billion-dollar corporations have a lot of leverage on all of us, and they've done good too. Those corporations have helped make our lives better, but we have to be mindful that, like for your generation, is kind of what I was getting at. You're going to be a voter in 2 years. Your generation has to be mindful of, okay, like, am I voting for people based off of what, because of major issues that are around donors backing, or does it serve the best interests of myself and all of your friends and colleagues that are at that age when they're voting? So it is complex, the political but I think the most important thing I can tell young people, and I tell this to grown-ups, be engaged in the voting process. Get to know your candidates and your electoral candidates, and don't be so fixated on just one major topic that becomes divisive. Look at the whole portfolio, because I think that's what both parties have a tendency to do in our country. They show you the one divisive thing and try to separate us.
That's a great segue into our periodicals reading challenge coming up after the new year.